Good evening, everybody. Good to see you. Welcome to Man Up Mondays. So glad to be back with you guys. As I mentioned on my Facebook and Instagram accounts, I've definitely been in a season of transition, and it's been a good transition. Transitions are necessary in life, definitely, for our purpose, whether it's transitioning to a new job, whether it's transitioning into a new place that God would have you to be in. Transitions will happen whether we like them or not. But the most important thing is how we handle the transitions that we're faced with. So I'm just really grateful to be able to talk to you guys again and definitely have our Man Up Mondays. There are three areas I definitely want to discuss tonight. Three areas I want to definitely tackle where men are attacked the most, and these are very critical areas. And they're definitely areas that I've had experience battling with. And so one of the things that I want to do is be transparent. I feel like the greatest gift that the 21st century church can give the world is transparency and vulnerability, meaning that we have to be authentic, but we have to be real about the struggles that we face. And it's about allowing our scars to become somebody else's stars. It's about allowing ourselves to be transparent, because if God can help us, then obviously he can help the person that's battling with the same thing that we've definitely battled with. So the first area is a very common area is sex. One of my greatest stories is that I was a virgin. I was really thankful to be a virgin when I married my wife. I got married when I was 30 years old, and I was able to marry my wife and really share the sexual experience with her for the first time. She was my first, and I'm really grateful for that. But although I was a virgin, sex was still my biggest problem. It was still my biggest issue, guys, because you have lust and then you have love. Lust is an intense craving for the forbidden. It's an intense craving for something that's not healthy for you at that moment. And you have love. Love is a decision that involves commitment. And so for me, although I was celibate, although I was not physically having sex, I could be around a bunch of different women and have sex with them in my head and create images in my head. And this was a big battle for me, even in my private life. I mean, just watching things I shouldn't have been watching, and even battling with masturbation. And so what happened is, because I couldn't physically have sex, then privately I would be dealing with this issue. And so what had to happen for me is I had to really take the time to spend time with God. I really had to get in his word. I really had to really be real about what my struggle was. I had to really allow my mind to be transformed. I really had to take the time to hear from God, because I'm a firm believer that the voice that you believe determines the future that you will experience. And a lot of times we don't overcome certain areas because we're not real about the area that we're battling with. And one of the biggest challenges that men face is pride. We have serious pride issues. A lot of times I know of men who have died taking struggles and secrets to their grave because they refused to deal with the problems that were haunting them. And the interesting thing is that everybody that's celibate is not walking in sexual purity. So when you're talking about walking in sexual purity, you're talking about the mind that we have when it comes to the opposite sex. Sex is not dirty. Sex is not evil. Sex is not bad. Guys, let me tell you something. God created sex. And let me tell you, I have tasted and I have seen that it is good because I'm married. And he created it for our enjoyment. Even if you look in Genesis, when God created Adam and Eve, this was after the fall, after they ate of the fruit that was forbidden to them. Then it says in Genesis that Adam knew Eve, his wife. And that word knew, the original meaning, it means that he had sexual intercourse with her. God created it for fulfillment and pleasure between a man and a woman. But You cannot be a public success and a private failure at the same time, because what you fail to deal with privately will always come back to bite you publicly. So love is patient while lust is impatient. Love is kind while lust is unkind. God created sex. He created our desire for it. So having the desire for sex is not wrong in and of itself. Because Jesus didn't come into our humanity to stop us from being human. He came into our humanity to rescue us from our sinfulness. So there's nothing wrong with having that desire. But when a woman is walking by you, or you see a woman, it's one thing to admire her beauty. But when you start creating a movie in your head about taking her clothes off, and this becomes a repeated thing, then what happens is we begin to see women as objects for our pleasure, and not truly as treasures to be valued. So then you have the pornography issue. I've spoken with a lot of men, and this is really a battle for so many people, for so many men. And the trick of the enemy is to get us addicted to the fantasy. And I definitely have something I want to share about porn. It says for the married man using porn, this Rolodex of images can begin to invade his sexual relationship with his wife. Pornography destroys real intimacy in relationships because it replaces real human interaction with a false image. When a married man trains his flesh to become dependent on pornography for sexual fulfillment and satisfaction, his wife can start to lose her appeal to him. He becomes more invested in his quote unquote relationship with the women in porn than he does in his marriage. The images he sees can begin to influence how he wants his wife to perform in their sexual relationship. And he begins to compare her with a two-dimensional image on a computer screen. And this happens with both sexes also. It's not just gender specific. But in order to really deal with and tackle this issue of sex, we have to understand what it was created for. Everything was created for a purpose, and it was created for enjoyment between a man and a woman. And even if you have had sex, and you may be having sex now and you're not married, or had sex before you were married, guess what? Your purity can be restored. Hope is not lost. It all starts with the decision to replace the need for having something that God didn't intend for you at the time, at that specific time, replacing that lust with prayer. Well, this is how we attack that area of lust, with prayer. Spending more time with God causes us to become more like God. So taking the time to get in his word and getting scriptures that really deal with the issue that you're battling. So that's the first area, sex. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It was created for our fulfillment between one man and one woman for a lifetime. And it is possible to walk in purity. It is possible. You have to be able to touch your woman without touching her. That's dealing with her spirit, being able to connect with her, being able to connect with each other spiritually, intellectually, doing activities together. My wife wrote a book called 101 Things to Do Other Than Have Sex, Hump, Bump, and Grind. And I want to encourage everybody to get that book, especially if purity is definitely a battle for you, because it'll really show you that there are so many different things that you can share common ground with the person you're courting with, that so many things that we can do without actually having sex, humping, bumping, and grinding. You have the light analogy, light versus heat. Light is what I like to call that which represents spiritual connection, mental, intellectual connection, emotional connection, being able to touch your mate without having to physically touch them at the time. That's that connection. Heat represents passion, lust, the outward. That this person looks good. They make this money. They do the things that I love. They look good. They make me feel good. That's the passion, the emotions. Those can change from day to day, guys. But when you settle for heat, that's temporary. But when you have light with your spouse, when you have light with a woman, you never have to worry about heat, because light generates heat. So remember, one can change, the other lasts forever. Second area is money. Last year, I was let go from my job, and I was out of work for an entire year. And this was probably one of the greatest challenges that my wife and I faced because I did not have a job. One thing that we're very thankful for is that even though I did not have a job, God still took care of us. Our needs were met. We have a health and wellness business. So many things were taken care of. We didn't want for anything. But the battle with me as a man was the fact that I was not bringing anything to the table. So I went out and I worked for Uber and I drove to bring some income in. I was going to interview after interview looking for jobs and nothing was popping. It's like doors were being shut in my face. And the one thing that I kept hearing God say to me was, I need you to spend time with me. You have to understand that you were created to be a leader in your household. You were created to support your household. You were created to provide, but you were not created to be your own source. This is where men battle the most, I believe. This money issue. The enemy really tries to cause a man to be insecure because of the amount of money he makes. But guys, understand something. No matter what your salary is, your sense of identity must be firmly grounded in the fact that you are a son of God and you hold unlimited potential because of who lives in you, not how much money you make. Money's a good thing. And I'm not saying that it's not important to pursue education and know how to be wise and know how to save and know how to invest. Those things are important. We should study. We should try to grow in that area. However, when your security rests in your business, when your security rests in how many digits are in your check, when your security rests in your savings, but it does not rest in the God and the purpose that he created you for, when that crashes, what do you have left? When that fails, what do you have left? So money has to be put in its proper perspective. We have to understand, guys, we are not our own source. Your job is not your source. Your business is not your source. Your spouse is not your source. You have only one source. And God had to strip something away from me to get me to realize that I was not my own boss, that he's in control. And I am grateful to say that I am not without a job right now. But I know that the place that I'm in is preparing me for the purpose that God has for me. And I've been in purpose all along. It's just been a transition of preparing and shaping my character and really helping me, because gifts, anybody can have a gift. You can make money, but how many people have character? Character is who you are when nobody's looking. It's the part of you that people don't see. It's who you are. So the third area is achievement. Men, we were wired to achieve. We were wired a certain way. We were wired to be achievers, to dominate. When you look at the purpose of man, we were created to dominate and be a reflection of God in the earth. Achievement is an area we can be attacked because a lot of times, a lot of times we sit back and we think, what have I accomplished? What have I gotten done? And especially comparing ourselves to other men. And this is something that has to stop, because comparison is the enemy of contentment. Comparison will steal your joy. Comparing yourself and your achievements to what another man has accomplished, it'll keep you up at night. It'll stress you out. It'll have you stressing your wife out. It'll have you stressing your lady out. It'll have you moving in your own strength, trying to make things happen that were not intended to happen at that time because you're chasing something. But when you're secure and you know who you are, you know whose you are, and you know what you created for, when you're a truly secure person is not going to waste their time trying to achieve things for the sake of keeping up with somebody else. So this falls in the area of pride. But we have to understand that God's word says that through Christ we can do all things. It says to trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Achievement. So the three areas that men are attacked in the most are sex, money, and achievement. What is our hope for sex? We talked about purity. It's a day-by-day process of submitting our mind to God. It's a day-by-day process of determining that Our worth does not rest in between our legs. I spoke with a gentleman one day, and it's interesting, ladies, for those ladies who are watching this broadcast, understand that just like women have intuition, men, we have intuition too. Understand, ours is different from yours, but we have intuition and we use it all the time to satisfy our flesh. We use it in ways that you don't realize. When I was speaking with a gentleman one day, he told me, Jeff, you know what? Before I got saved, I would meet women, and what caused me to get all the women that I did, what caused all the women to fall for me was the fact that I was persistent. I didn't give up. Whenever I researched, whenever I found out what a woman loved, I would continually do what she loved, continually do what she liked until I got her to do what I wanted her to do. And eventually that was to sleep with me. So ladies, beware. Beware. Just like God knows you, he knows what you like, and he created you. And when you don't see men in the proper perspective, and when you don't see a man and your perspective is flawed, the enemy can distract you easily. He knows you like those abs. He knows you like muscles. He knows you like money. Or if you're more impressed with what a man's driving, the job that he has, the business that he has, these are things that can be used to draw you in. And before you know it, you're in the bed, you're caught up in a situation with soul ties, emotional ties with a joker that really is no good for you. Because you were looking at something that was temporary. Instead of focusing so much on what he drives, find out what's driving him. Because there's more to a man than what you see. That stuff is temporary. There are a lot of women that would rather be with a man that has all the stuff, but no character, as opposed to a man, and I'm not saying every woman, as opposed to a man that has character but doesn't have all that stuff yet. Love is committed through time, through good and bad. We pay attention to the for better, but we don't pay attention to the for better or worse part when we say I do. You want to have an extraordinary relationship? Allow a good man, a man of God, the one that is for you, to find you. Help him go from being ordinary to extraordinary. Build an empire with him. Don't just focus on what he has right now. Well, I'm not going to keep you guys long. That's all the time that I have. But I would definitely like to invite you guys to and welcome you to ask any questions that you may have or any comments. I see my brother Faith Fighter Daryl Washington has joined me. Brother, how you doing? What's up, man? I appreciate you. Thank God for you being a brother and a friend to me. And I saw a few people just logged on, so feel free to ask any questions that you may have. Definitely just want to encourage you guys to just know who you are. Know whose you are. Oh, I appreciate you, brother. No problem. It's really a blessing to be able to share. So guys, make sure you check me out at JeffTylerSpeaks.com. If you did not catch this entire broadcast, it'll be available for upload at JeffTylerSpeaks.com. Also follow me on Instagram at Mr. Jeff Tyler as well. So Jeffrey Tyler on Facebook, at Mr. Jeff Tyler on Instagram. And also JeffTylerSpeaks.com. # JeffTylerSpeaks. Good night, guys.